Okay, to make a start, for our next presentation we have Pier 1 hosting company, and I'd like to introduce Sarah Winters from Pier 1 Hosting, who are a very large hoster. I was looking through your website, high level stuff in all sorts of things. Total product solutions for web hosting from coming through the website anyway. So I'll hand you over.
Very much. So before we get into what hosting is and you'll all die of boredom, I thought I'd kick off by telling you a quick story about something I did yesterday. So as Chris explained, we are a hosting company, but we purchased another company in July, and my main job for the last few months has been integrating people from the new company and teaching them the Pier 1 way. And yesterday I had to do a presentation on engagement, and I was lucky enough to have somebody do that presentation for me. And it was the most unengaging presentation I've ever seen in my life. And so what we did, because I could sense that, so on my way up on the train, I'm clicking away and I'm having fun trying to make this presentation look great. And on a scale of 1 to 10, I think I was about an 8 out of 10 in terms of how engaged I was. Then I walked in the room and I saw everyone's faces, and I immediately became a 4 out of 10. I'm feeling that way now. And then the presentation started and somebody else started speaking, and I became a -4. But I was pleased to say by the end of it, I was an 8 again. So that was good news. So just before we start, and there is no right or wrong answer about this, so if you're less at the end in terms of a score out of 10, I'll never speak again in public, and you'll save everyone the dire boredom of having to hear from me again. So if you've got a pen and paper in front of you, just do me a favour and write down on a scale of 1 to 10 how engaged you're feeling in the overall session today, and probably sort of from about this point now. So if everyone would just do that.
We're not taking into account how vindictive the students are.
I was a student all but 5 years ago myself. So yeah, I am quite vindictive myself actually.
Could you speak a little bit slower?
Yes, of course I can. Sorry, but always very excited. Too excited. So, who are presentation? Who are Pier 1 Hosting? What do we actually do? Pier 1 Hosting transit over 1% of the world's internet traffic, and if you amass that to a physical state, it would be the size of a large strawberry, which actually seems quite unimpressive, but I like strawberries, so I like the fact. In terms of who we target the top 100,000 biggest websites in the world. A couple of them you may have heard, a very small and insignificant site called YouTube actually started with us in 2005. And they started with 2 servers. And then 5 years later, Google bought them and had 5,000 servers. And I can't even begin to think about, mainly because I did languages at university rather than maths, but how many servers they have now and what they're running on. But easily one of the world's most popular websites. There's also another website out there called WordPress, which you actually might not have heard of, but they're a popular blogging templating site, and they're the 9th largest website in the world, and we also host them too. And that's all very impressive and great, but we also host lots of smaller business, medium-sized businesses, doing lots of things that you wouldn't even be aware of, and by rights I'm sure you've never heard of us ever. Because I certainly hadn't when I started, and I didn't know that hosting existed either. We were born out of Canada about 10 years ago, and in terms of when you look at how the industry started, where it was 10 years ago, where it is now, and where it's going to be in the future, and ultimately, hopefully by the end of this presentation, you'll know a bit more about that. We're floated on the Toronto Stock Exchange in Canada, and we came into the UK 3 years ago. We've since become the 2nd largest hosting company in the UK in a very short space of time, and one that most people believe is doom and gloom, miserable, everyone's getting fired and life's not good, so hopefully going to tell you something positive too. And we're growing 100% year on year in the UK. In the US we grow 15% year on year, and they're delighted with that, and actually most companies would be. But in the UK, 100% year on year, and we'll hopefully continue to do so. Now I'm disappointed to hear that my next slide got stolen by somebody else yesterday, so sorry about that. I'll be more innovative in the future. Okay, so let's get down to then, why am I actually here? And the brief for me was to talk to you about current and future trends within the industry that I work. And many of you, I think your engagement levels probably just sunk to about -2 as soon as I opened up with that. But, you know, way back in the day, way back in the day, before I was even alive, people did have servers, and they historically lived under the desk and were an amazing place to store your coffee and your paperwork. Beyond that, sort of a bit further down the line, people started to co-locate, which is when they would take those servers from out underneath the desk and put them in a safe environment with great connectivity, great security, and all the things that actually, if you did it in an office, would cost hundreds of thousands of pounds. Data centres cost tons of money to run, look after and build in the first instance. So people started to think, well actually it would be better if I'm spending all this money on equipment, I should put it somewhere safe. So at that point then companies like us, and we were doing this way back when, were just responsible for making sure that they had a connection to the internet and a plug socket. After that, people started to lease servers, because then what happened is they wanted to free up their money. So all the things we talked about before involved spending a ton of money up front and nothing thereafter until 3 years later when they'd have to do it again. But then they got down to the kind of operational renting method, where we would provide the servers as well, maybe you pay us a monthly fee for that, and run along quite nicely, not be responsible for the hardware, free up loads of money to grow and develop their business elsewhere, and frankly get all the boring stuff out of the way, because there isn't anything sexy about hosting at the level that we're talking. Then in 2005, from a Pier 1 perspective, we launched managed hosting. Now, we're pretty on the button as far as making sure that we're launching within the right time frame and we're doing things appropriately. So if you want to look at the history of hosting, just look at the history of Pier 1. I'm not biased at all. But in 2005, we launched Managed Hosting. So that's when actually then we added people to the equation. So it's not just hardware, it's not just network and all the things that historically boys love and girls hate. But actually, it was about customer service, it was about proper sales technique, it was about maintaining your customers for as long as possible. And that's where it does get interesting, and actually that's where my passion lies. And now we talk about cloud. So, cloud schmoud, what is cloud? And thanks to our good friends Apple, my mum thinks she knows what it is now, and I can promise you that's a dangerous thought. Probably should mention at that point my grandma thinks I work for Google because she can't understand this whatsoever. I let her think that because it's alright, it's fine. But so cloud really is the future of hosting. So we talked about the past and talked a bit about the now, but let's actually talk about what the future looks like. And it is all about cloud. But the challenge that everyone has is that a wonderful marketing company drop the word cloud into the equation and everyone, including my mum, thinks they know what they're talking about, and they're not. So just want to spend 5 small minutes educating you on what cloud is. So cloud can mean one of 2 things. In its actual real state, cloud means things that you can't see, touch, feel. They're just out there, like iTunes is just out there and all those sorts of things. But you could never actually go up and say, this is iTunes, and see it and touch it. So that is actually what cloud means. But in the world of hosting, it means something slightly more technical, which is that actually, forget about a cloud and think about a cake. And if the cake is multiple servers, and you can cut lots and lots of slices out of it, that's cloud. And so on a Monday, I might want a really small slice, but on Wednesday, when generally I'm more mobile, I want a bigger slice of chocolate cake. So I take more. And so on. And you might go all the way around and eat the whole cake. And if you eat the whole cake, then you might go and get your own cloud. Do you see? So I would love it if people nodded, if it makes sense. But cloud's great, cloud's a wonderful word, but I would rather think of it as a cake because it is just something that you can take a slice from, and that's what it means. So in terms of what does that mean to businesses, if you're a business, you could go out and spend £10,000 a month on hosting as a nice round figure. But actually, 6 months or 7 months out of the year, you're only probably using a fraction of that. And what businesses would really love to do is just pay for a fraction of that. They don't want to pay for more of it. Why would you? You don't want to pay for, hundreds of houses if you're only going to live in one for, the majority of the year. So what cloud enables them to do is to say, we just want this amount for this amount of time. And when we need more, we can just really easily add more with no disruption. So, and then you start hearing about this scaling up and down and bursting into the cloud. And if you ever get into the industry, most people who say that, including myself, don't know what we're talking about. They just say it because it sounds impressive. And it does, but in reality, that's what cloud means. So a project that we're working on at Pier 1 Hosting at the moment has, in order to create cloud, of a tiny thing called a hypervisor that sits on top of all the servers. You'll be able to go online and say, I want 10 servers like that, and they'll be ready for you. Right now, if you came to do that, you're looking at 5 to 10 days as a minimum to get a solution like that built. So to have all of that sort of thing at your fingertips, that's what the future is. But moreover, and the thing that I really want to talk to you about today is actually then, okay, so if it is just a commodity, and you do just have a slice of a cake, how do people add value? How do you really grow the industry? How has Pier 1 grown 100% year on year for the last 3 years? And that boils down to the people, the engagement, and all the sorts of things that we want to do. So I'm going to flip this on its head now and leave the cloud behind and just talk a bit to you about the sorts of things that we do and what you could do industry-wide. Because let's face it, one day you are all going to work for a company, have your own company, and I can promise you that what I'm about to tell you is liquid gold in that respect. These are the things that will enable you to go out and do the amazing things that the company that I work for are doing, and the things that are making the industry really successful. So, as a company, our objective is to be recognised for the most engaged and passionate team industry-wide. We think that people buy from people, and I imagine you would almost all agree with that. You can go out and you can pick things and you can make an assumption about what you see online, and you might be disappointed when the parcel arrives in the post and it wasn't quite what you thought. And how amazing would it have been if you could have just picked up the phone and said, what do you think about this? Have you ever bought one before? Or, you know, we constantly now, as a result of the internet, rely on textualised reviews. We rely on, you know, great bit of marketing on the website, and we trust it. And not always does it deliver. And where hosting is concerned, business critical things. We've got companies that spend hundreds of thousands of pounds a month with us that are turning over millions of pounds a month. Now, if we don't deliver on our promise, that business is going to go bust. And so, you know, it's not as easy as being able to send it back in the post in the industry that we're in. So, we have a couple of core values, and again, when you go and work for a company, undoubtedly you'll find these, but never have I worked for a company that truly enforces them. So, our core values are sense of fun and play, every interaction matters, strive for excellence, enable others to succeed, and anything is possible. And the key one for me is enabling others to succeed. So my boss, in many companies, my boss would have just gone and done this today because he would have thought, well, I'm the boss, I'm the most important person, therefore I am the best person to deliver this presentation. But he knew that I was really passionate about it, so he thought, actually, you go and do it because I think that you'll do a better job. And that was enabling me then to hopefully improve on my presentation skills or learn that I'm terrible and never do it again, as I said earlier. But why does all this stuff matter in industry? And it boils down to this. If you have high engagement with your employees, you get high performance. And if you're high performance, you have high business growth, which comes as a result of satisfied customers. It's the most basic maths in the world. And it's the one thing that I would never forget. As I said, linguists, not mathematicians. So, you know, things like this don't sit in my mind very easily. So the sorts of things that we do are kind of dotted around this page here as far as how do we actually engage our employees? How do we make them highly engaged, highly performing, and growing our business at 100% year on year? So I was just going to very briefly talk you through them. So the Employee Exchange Programme is when you apply to go and work out of a different office. We've got 22 offices globally, and actually someone in my team went and worked in Vancouver for a week 2 weeks ago. She went all over Canada travelling, she worked in the marketing department, and she learned all about what marketing do, so that she can come back, bring back that knowledge, share it, and we can develop and be better at what we're doing. And again, ultimately, that leads to high performance, better customer service, more business growth. We get free breakfast every day. That means I go to work at 7:30 in the morning because I can, and if I wait till 8, I'll be starving. And then I sit down and I have breakfast with my colleagues and we talk about what we're going to do that day. And it's much nicer than trying to eat your Cocoa Pops on the way out the door and spilling them down your t-shirt. We do more simple things like training and tuition reimbursement. So if you want to go and be better at your job, there is a budget where the company will pay for you to plain and simply go and learn more stuff, be better, develop, stay there. That builds loyalty. Our average tenure in our company for a support staff member is 7 to 10 years. Now, that's unheard of. Most people who work in the IT industry get very bored very quickly and they just go on to the next company. That means all their customers become massively at risk every month because the guy who really took care of them, the guy who really knew what their business was about, has gone off elsewhere because he didn't care about the company, just wanted a bit more money. And it's massive if you can keep the staff, particularly your service staff, your customer-facing staff, for a really long time. And again, you do that through things like this. The employee referral programme, so we've got a rule, no recruiters, we hate them. Sorry if there are any in the room or any budding ones. But we hate them because they never take the time to understand our business. They never take the time to understand what we want. All they are interested in is placing staff as quickly as possible, a bit like some of our hosting competitors, I might add, who are just interested in selling servers as quickly as possible and not understanding what the business wants. What do we need to be able to enable these people to achieve? The employee referral programme means that if one of you wanted to come and get a job at Pier 1 Hosting and you wanted to have a chat with me afterwards, that wasn't a shameless plug, I could recommend you. If you got hired, I get paid £1,500 for my troubles. Pay a recruiter £3,000 for someone who's probably not going to fit. It makes sense. Again, people buy from people. People know people. And actually, what's better, I wouldn't recommend someone if I didn't think they were going to be a good fit within the company, because it would make me look stupid, plainly and simply. So actually, you know, these sorts of things are what help you grow. You don't need to go and follow the trend like everyone else does. You can make your own rules and do your own things to build engagement. And I keep going on about it, but maintain your staff, have better customer service, higher performance, industry growth, business growth, which is what we're here to talk about. Now, a couple of the things down the bottom that we do, benchmarking. Never be ashamed. Even now, you don't have to be from a business. If you want to phone a company up and go and look around and see how they do things, do it. Companies like us love showing off. We love sprucing our tail feathers and telling everyone, much like I'm doing now, about how great we are and how we engage our staff. Innocent Drinks are a fantastic example. I've been to their offices and they have the best offices I've ever seen in my life. Amazing. Picnic tables everywhere, wall art everywhere. They have all these like engagement programs completely different to what we do to keep their staff there, and they have huge tenure. People working there at all hours, God sends, because there's just this insane amount of loyalty to what they're doing. So off the back of that came the Glee team. So Innocent Drinks have a group of people called the Environment Club, and they're responsible for making sure they have the softest toilet roll in stock, the best chocolate cake, you know, making sure it's a nice place, buying birthday cards for people, really small things that make a massive difference. We didn't feel like we could just, you know, ashamedly call it the Environment Club, because that's just copying. So we tried the Culture Club, that didn't work out either, and we went for the Glee team because, to be honest, I don't think I can say this, but it took the mickey out of our American counterparts and their terrible, trashy television. So maybe don't publish that bit, especially if my boss is going to see it. And so the Glee team was born. So we're responsible for anything like, and again, no manager decided this, just a group of staff who went on this trip thought, actually, this is a really great idea, and we're going to make it better. So they were like, you know, the people's people. They do the Christmas party, or they decide we were going to have a music server in the office, or something like that. It could be literally anything. Making sure, again, I go on about it, but the nicest toy roll. All those tiny, small things that make people really happy to be at work. Last few then, cock up of the month and going the extra mile. They're two things that we do for recognition. So the other thing about engaging people is recognising them for what they're doing. So, but that's celebrating their mistakes too. No one should ever make a mistake and feel like, I can't tell anyone, I need to cover it up. Because how will everyone else learn from it, and how will the business excel? And again, all of this boils down to, if we don't celebrate mistakes, we don't celebrate successes, how do people know they're doing really well? How do they do more of the good stuff, less of the not so great stuff? And how does the business excel and grow? If all the businesses do it, the industry grows. And you know, this is so sort of off the beaten track of what I could have talked about today, but this is the foundation. No one went out and built foundations for a house out of marshmallows. The people are the foundation of the company. If you don't make them happy and you don't engage them, you will not be successful. And then obviously there's the rudimentary Pier 1 in the community. We get 2 charity days, people go out. I do great work with business partnerships who bring schools and businesses together to try and do these sorts of things, educate, engage, and make people feel like this is great. When I was 16 years old, I didn't wake up and think, I want to work in hosting. In fact, when I was 20, I didn't wake up and feel like that. It all sort of happened. But now it's happening, I couldn't be happier. In a world full of miserable economic downturn, to be working for a booming company in a booming industry. People right now, at the point that you are in your, in your educational lives, do not know about this and should know about this, because this is a great time to start making decisions. There are more companies out there like this. They're not necessarily hosting companies. Marketing companies are particularly renowned for this. But if you go and work for an engaged company, or build your own engaged company, I guarantee you will be successful. Okay, so again, in case you missed it and I wasn't clear, happy staff equals great service, equals happy customers, equals business growth. Basic maths. I can't stress that enough. Does anyone have any questions at this stage? And is anyone feeling more engaged than they were earlier?
Is this
from an American philosophy, or is it something you adapted yourself?
No, this is this is from a famous philosopher called Dominic Monkhouse, who's our managing director. So he's a customer service junkie by his own admission, and most people who want to go out and make their customers really happy go and just try and make the customers really happy by buying them chocolates and, you know, giving them credits because they might have done something wrong. You know, and they're all basic things of business, but actually that's just putting hundreds of band-aids, plasters on it, and not really changing the way that we do things. And I can't, for hosting, the thing is that you can't, doesn't matter how much we dress it up, hosting is kind of, at its basic level, a bit boring. Because it's hardware, it's network cables, it's data centres, predominantly a male industry, although not really anymore, but certainly at the operational and support level, it's all about big white buildings and hard-edged desks and no fun, and just turn up, do your shift, go home again. And you can go around.
Extreme. Do you think fun really sort of started in 2005?
Well, managed hosting started in 2005. I think that
So was there any customer service before that?
not as much. There wasn't as much of a need for it because all you were supporting, let's face it, is a plug and a network.
So there wasn't any customer.
Not really.
There weren't sort of data processing bureaus in London with customers.
Yeah, but that's if you're looking at hosting, that's not customer service. That's just.
It's not customer service.
To my mind, no. For me, that's serving your customers in terms of that your customer. Like if you're a co-location customer, you expect to have power and network connectivity. Okay, going back pre-2005, and that type of hosting still exists. And that was what you had to deliver. But real customer service is about people. It's about face-to-face interaction. And if you don't have that, you're not really giving customer service. You're just delivering what you said you were going to do. If we turn up, look, Ian Lays is customer of ours, and sorry, and
I'm your best customer.
Yeah, he's our best customer. Ian Lays is our best customer.
Better than you.
And Ian's got a certain amount of expectations. At the very boring, most basic level, is that his servers are on all the time, so his business can run. At the highest level, it's that people are there for him to be able to speak to, fix the problems, proactively help him grow. And we just had that exact conversation. That's customer service. That whole thing. First thing that Ian said was, "How's Ian, his account manager?" He didn't say, "How's my server? How's the internet connections? It's still going." It's, "How's the person?" And that's customer service. For me personally, this isn't, again, there isn't really a right or wrong, although I fiercely believe I'm right. But, you know, there's delivering on what your business promises, and then there's really serving your customers. And I think what we do is really, really, really deliver on customer service. So, have I scared you into submission?
No, not at all, but I'll talk about it.
Yeah, no, I'd love to talk to you more about it. Love to. But I'd look around, go and find other companies that are growing at the rate we're growing, and find out where the difference is. And it isn't how much RAM is in the server that they're selling, and it isn't how fast is the network connection. It's how good are the people behind that. That ultimate, if there was a sort of a summary to all of it, that's it. So when you go, you can go out and you can run a business like a conveyor belt, and you'll get some success, but you won't get maximum success. And in an industry where things, or in an economic climate where things aren't great, as everyone permanently reminds us, you have to start to diversify. And that is, there's having new technology, and we have a commitment as a company to make sure that our technology is up to date and that we're selling the newest things. But that's easy to do. Getting the right people to sell it, getting the right people to work with the customers once they've bought it, that's the hard bit. And then when you find them, keeping them. And if you do that, the customer will be happy. All of that, this is the equation to me. And if you try and start down the bottom with the happy customers and your staff aren't happy, any changes you make down here won't work. They won't last. It's just throwing money into a black hole. But if you can get the kind of happy staff that believe in this, drink the Kool-Aid, as my American friends say, which I definitely do, as you can probably tell, if they do drink the Kool-Aid, that the whole thing, the whole message filters through to the end customer. If they don't, and you just try and make the customers drink the Kool-Aid, it's not going to work. It's just not sustainable. That's not how you get growth, and that's not what the future of hosting is. No matter how automated and wonderfully clever cloud becomes, the people are the constant. The people are the things that will truly, truly drive that growth. Does anybody else have any questions? Does anyone feel a bit more engaged? Yes, that means I can talk again. Right, thank you very much.
Okay, is there any other questions? Sarah.
Sorry. Sorry.
There's particular industries in the media industry which really just hire by projects and don't hire a staff. And the games industry particularly is like that. What lessons could they learn from this philosophy?
I think that it's just stripping it back to basics. Like I really think that in a world of economic complexity, people instinctively try and do the hardest thing because they think it will be the most effective. Really basic things, and we do like an annual survey, for example, of our staff, and we use our leaders to encourage them to make sure that they're talking totally honestly. The right answer isn't my manager is always nice, the company is always engaging. There's no point in doing that survey. Who hired the person who sends that survey out if all they want is for people to say it's great when it's really not? You have to seek criticism. You have to seek that from your staff. But you have to employ people that are prepared to be open about that. Or equally, if you've already employed them, you have to create the environment where they feel comfortable to do that. So all of the leaders in our company talk incredibly openly about what they think. So we might do something that isn't great, no more terms of words I've really chosen to use there. And how you create that culture where people feel like they can deliver real constructive criticism is if the leaders, the example setters, the role makers, are constructively criticising things themselves. Our MD, Dominic Monkhouse, all the time, if something's silly, so he sends out an email once a quarter and says, I'll give a £10 gift voucher to anyone who can discover a process that we do is entirely pointless. And people just send him a quick email. Or you can put a post-it up on the fridge or something anonymous. So again, it's what people are comfortable with. But as soon as you start to create that environment where you're encouraged to be critical and make things therefore better, and then you enable people to fix their own problems. So if I think we're getting too much milk delivered on a Monday, it could be as basic as that. I know I can just phone up the milk company and tell them to deliver less. I don't have to go and ask 5 people if that's okay. And that's the culture. So if you've already got the employees, for me it's starting with the leaders because they're your promoters. They are your role models. But then as you employ new people, you have to employ people that are going to buck the trend slightly if the trend in your company isn't that great. People who aren't afraid to say what they think, be a bit louder, and encourage that kind of buzz. We're going through this challenge now through the merger, through the fact that we have an office in Southampton of people that we've gone through rigorous employment processes, and we have our team in London who spent a huge amount of time working with it to make sure they were happy to join our company. But now they're here. To my point about what I was saying earlier about the engagement meeting yesterday, we have to make sure they're engaged too. I just go, Pier 1's great, you have to like it, and that's it. We have to be aware of the fact that most people are just happy with what's normal to them, so it's trying to show them the way. And all our peers from Southampton are our ambassadors. So it's picking out those people, the champions. It doesn't have to be leaders, but you certainly want to make sure that they're on that page if that's the kind of culture you're trying to create.
Do you run company social networks, or do you do it by word of mouth or emails or post-it notes?
I've got a fantastic PR agency for a start, but and we do a lot of social media. So all our account managers have got their own social media accounts, and they use that to communicate with their customers a lot. or one account manager, and the only way she knows to speak to her customer is over Twitter for the world to see, and that's how they like it. You know, and we do. You can follow our MD on Twitter. Is a great thing to do. He's always putting up nuggets of information. But we get involved in a lot of events. We do things with the Customer Services Network. So we'll get involved. We're a sponsor of that, so we'll speak at that. We'll attend sessions. Our team will attend sessions. We haven't created our own network. I'm sure it's something that eventually we'd like to do. I mean, we're getting a new office in Southampton. It's going to be Pier 1 on the pier. And one of the things we'd really love to do, a bit like the Google campus in many ways, is have young budding businesses come and work out of our office for a little while. We've got a company now that do it, a two-man development company. They're great, and actually we've got some shared customers now. And we'd like to do a bit more with that, to try and, you know, build a physical network. But certainly the best thing you can do, look up Pier 1, follow people on Twitter. We're always speaking at these events, unashamedly speaking at these events, about these sorts of things. So, you know, I'm at Swint87, by the way, and I desperately need more followers again on Twitter. So, so glad you asked that question.
Sorry?
I'm so glad you asked that question. We are the greenest data centre in the UK. The greenest data centre in the UK. And you're right, it's a hugely important topic right now. Hosting is dirty, and not in a good way. It's,
So it's not just chocolate you like.
no. But yeah, it's a dirty business. There's a lot of things that go on that aren't great for the environment as far as that's concerned. The way that you measure a data centre's greenness is on its PUE, and that's to do with the
Explain
amount of energy.
PUE.
No. In a short answer. But the way that PUE is basically when you look at the amount of energy that goes in, how much of that can we recycle and reuse, and how much of that is waste, and we don't get to reuse. If our PUE is less than 1, most data centres are between 1.5 and 2. And although that doesn't seem like a big difference, it is when you're measuring it in fractions of decimals. There's a big difference. And it could be silly things, right? Like every server we get comes in a cardboard box, so we recycle the cardboard. The new offices that we're building, we're exceeding building regulations, green expectations by 15% as far as the types of technologies that we're using and what we're doing with waste materials and things like that. It's corporate responsibility now. A data centre should be doing it. It's not, for me, I don't think that anyone would ever do business with us just because we were green, but it definitely enables a lot of companies to get a lot better about doing business with us. And it's no secret that if you're greener, generally it's cheaper as well.
Sorry, when I was working at Ricoh, it was very much a problem in terms of the customer base that they had, that because those customers wanted to maintain their 14,001 and they had to work with suppliers who similarly had those processes in place. So that's why Ricoh is one of the greenest companies on the planet.
Yeah.
Because they want those accounts and they have to be like that in order to keep those accounts. Do you have that same issue that you know, for most people working with you, if they want to be environmentally responsible as well?
And I think working with us enables them to tick that box, I suppose, in many ways. And there are companies that will go out there. I've spoken to a couple, and their big driver is how green is the data centre. But then when it comes down to it, there's lots of other things that are also incredibly critical to them. So when they can find a fine balance, it's great. And you know, it's like the green piece, the technology that we use is a technology called Xpool. And we've got our own YouTube channel, so you can take a look, and the videos actually are really good. If I can understand them, anyone can understand them, I can assure you of that much. But Xpool, we are the first data centre in the UK to be using this technology. They've implemented it in a couple of sites in the US, it's brand new, and there's lots of similar technologies, but none of them quite achieve the same level of greenness that we do.
It's X.
EXCOOL. If you look it up on YouTube, or look up Pier 1 on YouTube, you'll find a whole ton of videos about these sorts of things.
Is there a big move from government things to make the computer industry more environmentally friendly, or is it still being ignored?
I think, honestly, I mean, there's always regulations. I mean, for example, you know, like now we're building a new data centre, there are regulations as far as how green we have to be, and we're exceeding them. For us, it's more of a corporate responsibility. I don't think the guidelines at the moment are that tough. And so it is down to the individual businesses. But again, if you are a successful business, hosting-wise globally, we've got the healthiest balance sheet in the hosting industry, which enables us to go out and get these sorts of technologies and adopt them. Hosting, as far as asset management, asset costs is really expensive. It costs millions to build a data centre. Our data centre in Portsmouth is 58,000 square feet. It's absolutely enormous. Never in my life have I more felt like a borrower opening the Small People, great TV show in our time. It's just incredible how big it is. And there are much bigger ones out there too. I think that in American terms they call it, it's the equivalent to, I think, ice hockey rink or something, which is just mad actually. I've never been to an ice hockey match. But it's several football pitches, definitely. And I think if you invest in it, when you've got that space, you could just heat it inefficiently and spend bags and bags of money. If you've gone out and spent 50 million on a data centre and everything that goes in it, you best make sure it's green so that in the future it doesn't cost you as much to run. It's just good maths. It's, you know, if you're a good hosting company, a stable hosting company, then you're able to make these things. And it is really easy to go and get a hosting company. You could have a rack in our data centre, put 40 servers in it, and call yourself a hosting company. But when you want to get into the real serious things about supporting people's businesses and helping them grow, that type of thing isn't that stable anymore. We're looking for reliable, dependable, scalable companies with good balance sheets, good green credentials. That's what that is actually part. The future of hosting. I'm sure that the regulations will get a lot tougher as time goes on. And I'm proud to say that I work for a company that's not going to have to spend millions fixing what they just did because it won't be the right thing.
Because I think that there's going to be some cloud legislation coming over on what people are doing with this and how it's managed. I think that could possibly be driven by America, but possibly Europe as well. So certainly something.
Well, as a Canadian company with American data centres and based in the UK, I'm sure we'll be the first to follow.
Well, do you think everyone's just going to ship? Oh, you're an ethical company, so you're doing this. Do you think the rogue ones who aren't interested in that will just ship it out to China or India?
It's not that, well, I do like China because it's not that easy to wholesale actually. There's way too many regulations.
That might change.
So I think, yeah, and it might do. But, maybe yes, maybe they will, but what does that mean for people's websites? What does that mean for interaction from a customer's experience perspective on the website level? Awful. If you're a UK customer and you want to go and buy a t-shirt from a UK company, and that's hosted in China because the hosting company frankly can't be asked to be green enough, your buying experience is going to be terrible. My favourite fact ever about hosting is that if your web page takes 4 seconds to load, your bounce rate, so in terms of unsuccessful continued hits, is 40% lower. So if you go and stick it in China, not a hope of achieving those types of things. So businesses will go bust. I think it will thin out the people who are really committed to the future of hosting.
So brilliant. Yeah.
Always about me. You can communicate proactively about it. Like maybe when you have sustainable reports, or it's more like your customers that ask you that, then you answer.
No, so we do, it depends on our customer, because if our customer comes to us and they've got a particular green initiative, we'll work very closely with them to make sure that they've got maximum information at their fingertips all the time. We do publish those sorts of things. We're extremely transparent company, and we publish our financial figures every single time. So we will then publish anything to do with green figures and what we're changing, and we've got documents that we send out to our customers that sign up with us about how green we are, so that they know when they can pass that through. Because also, where we are, and I talk about us being probably foundations of anything, with the foundations, if the website is the house, we're the foundation. And without us, you can't have the house or the website. And if we start telling people about us being green, that will encourage them to do the same thing. And again, that goes back to, corporate responsibility. We're a growing company, we have to make sure that we are preaching as well as practicing.
And covering these NGOs yet?
No. Yeah, no. I tell you a quick story actually, while we start the green thing. So we've got a data centre in New York. Something quite awful happened there recently in the name of Hurricane Sandy. I think everyone in this room, I hope, knows about it. our data centre's in the financial district, which was one of the worst hit areas in New York from the flooding perspective. Our generators were in the basement because the footprint, as far as the actual size of the data centre in New York, is tiny. It's a huge building on lots of floors. It's one of our smaller data centres. So it's news of Sandy's coming in. There was plenty of warning. I'm not going to. Many of our competitors, oh, the storm coming, lights out, let's all go home. Our data centre manager goes out, buys hundreds of supplies. 3 hours later, I think it was something like a 200-foot storm wave hit the front of the building, flooded the basement. The generators started failing. So then we have emergency generators on the top floor. So then for the next 24 hours, we had 30 people carrying actual 35-gallon buckets up 15 flights of stairs to fill our generators up to keep our customers running. And we have people flying in to do that. We have people from other businesses helping us do that. Throughout the whole of Hurricane Sandy and everything that followed, our customers never went down. The only hosting company, the only one that stayed up and running. And that is, I mean, going back to the customer service thing, that's customer service. That's people who you have engaged so much, they can't possibly go home because they know if they go home and stick around and help, that thousands of customers' businesses are going to fail. And, you know, again, and that's about people making money, surviving the economic climate. For many people, if your website's down, you're not making any money in your business. So they stuck around and they carried on doing it. They had to deconstruct the generator in the basement and carry it up the stairs. And they had to break it down into the smallest components possible. And the smallest component that they broke it down into still weighed something like 100 pounds, I think. I mean, it's just madness, the types of stories, but that's customer service. That, you know, and that is, again, I know it's off the green, but it's about corporate responsibility isn't just being green. As a hosting provider, corporate responsibility is making sure our customers' businesses are online and they're still making money, and our people feel comfortable.
Okay, I think we're stopped. One more.
Just as far as this company commitment is concerned, the joint commitment you're talking about, I'm wondering, is it so ingrained in the employees, or is it actually coming from internal comm, from HR?
No,
I mean, how is it generated?
It's definitely from employees. It's like a bug. So I started working for the company 2.5 years ago, and I was an account manager. I came from a company where I barely got paid enough to make rent. I had to have another job on the weekend so that I could continue to live away from home. Worked really hard for a year to get enough commercial experience to go and apply for more jobs. So I turned up at Pier 1, I couldn't believe how different it was. And it's that moment when you think, how can a company be doing all these great things for us? And at that point, you just think they're doing great things for you. It's not until after a certain amount of time, I think, that you really see what the benefits of it are, as far as our customers go. But that empowerment, that enabling people to succeed, that driving people to make their own bleatings or pick their own cereal to have in the food shop every week. As soon as you make the first decision that makes somebody else happy in the company, you get the bug and you can't stop doing it. And everyone gets the bug. It's impossible not to get the bug. We employ, 19 vacancies at the moment. And they've probably popped up over the last 2 months as well. And that's growth, that's not through people leaving, they're net new vacancies. And those people that we hire and the rigorous process that we put them through, we make sure that their attitude and their approach and their personality is such that they would be able to embrace the kind of environment that we have. You know, it's not, if you employ someone that's really successful, it's the most miserable person you've met in your life, they will bring your company down. Because miserable people bring people down. Bring people down with them.
But we do try.
Yeah. I hate you. So, you know, it's about the attitude that people bring in and the effect that they will have on everyone else. It is about that. You can teach someone. I sold furniture before I did this. Hardwood furniture. There is nothing similar about hosting to that. But I got taught everything I needed to know. And the thing that's made me successful is my attitude and my approach. So you can teach anything to anyone, and it is all about industry.
Okay. So thank you very much.
Thank you.